Now, you took that first house hack and you actually took the profits and bought a 12 unit, from my understanding, correct?
Yes.
Tell us about that process, and how you're able to do that.
Yeah, I sold that property. So I bought it in 2015, sold it in 2018. And the property, I don't like to sell. I'd always hold if I can. But in this case, I thought the property just appreciated way too much for the area. The area wasn't really getting better, but the property more than doubled in value in
Mm-hmm.
just a short time. Said, you know what? I don't think if there's a recession or if the market goes down, I don't think I'll get this price for quite a long time after that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I did decide to sell. And something really cool about that I thought was I actually sold it to another person doing a house hack.
Nice.
So it like kind of came full
Awesome.
circle. And I know the tenant, I ran into the tenant that I had in the other day, and the person, they did move in and they're house hacking it. And I think they're doing pretty well too. So
Awesome.
kind of nice to see that.
Yeah.
But I did take that money and we purchased a 12 unit multifamily property here in Phoenix. This one we actually had built a relationship from an investor my dad had worked with prior. So he had bought a property that this investor was selling. He was like a very wealthy San Francisco investor who he was a total absentee owner. The place was a dump. He just wasn't putting money into it.
Mm-hmm.
So he sold a property to my dad, and then he was looking to sell this one. So because of that past experience, he was like, we were one of the first people who got the call. So it was an off-market deal. And this property, it was, I mean, some of these units, like they didn't even have doors on the cabinets. Like they were just like, it's just open boxes. They're in that bad, like,
Yeah.
extension
Yeah.
cords running on the ceiling for lights and the whole deal. However, it's in a really up and coming area in Phoenix. So we knew that the value was there in order to fix it up and get it to par. Also, it's a garden style property. So it's all single level units. They're like about 900 square feet. So they actually feel like little houses. They have like little yards and they have in unit washer dryer. So that I thought was unique. And we were able to offer a different product than everything else, which is like your traditional, 5, 6 story mid rise here in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So we fixed those up, and the first one we're increasing the rents like $300 to $400 a month for these units. You can actually build 12 more units on the property
Wow.
because there's so much land and the zoning is right. Yeah, we can without touching the existing 12, we can add 12 more, and that's going to give us a total of 24 units for this property. And that's going to be where the real upside is, because the property we bought now is, pretty close to market value. But when we build the 12, we're going to have a lot of equity and a lot of spread there to be able to do that.
And you're breaking ground on that pretty quickly here, right? Am I understanding?
That will be next year. We have another development that we're about to break ground on, which is kind of the same situation. That one's going to be before. So we're still
tell us
small.
about these, the developments you're within, and then kind of the rest of your portfolio.
Sure. So the philosophy that we had, essentially, we're trying to stand out and be able to not have to compete. We're all the big boys investors from
Yeah.
Out of state. They have deals that we could never compete on.
Yeah.
Capital
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah.
So we try to go where they're not. And the way that we found some success was we found in Phoenix, a lot of these properties have old grandfathered in zoning where they were like single family homes or small duplexes, but they were on large lots and they're zoned to be able to put more units on it.
Mm.
So we try to find properties where we can build more units or add to the property itself in order to do like a small development and get a lot of upside there. So the first one we did was it was a triplex actually, and somehow we found a way to put 3 more units on the property and get a total of 6.
Mm.
So that was really successful, and it was something that no one else was looking at it in that way. I think we were probably the only people crazy enough to try it.
Yeah.
And it was we definitely struggled to make it happen. I mean, it was probably the hardest deal we've ever done by far, and it was one of the smaller ones.
Was it objections from zoning, or was it objection from the neighborhood? Like, what were some of the things that you hit with that deal?
A lot of it was the city. So they just couldn't wrap their head around putting new construction combined with existing units. It was just like, it was too much for them.
Yeah.
So big challenges there. We went back and forth so many different times, and we were, fighting with inspectors and the whole thing. But we kind of looked at it like, the more we're struggling here to do this deal, the better upside it probably has.
Yeah.
So we were willing to trade our time and basically having a headache every day to deal with this in order to make something happen that a lot of people just wouldn't even give the time of day who are bigger and more successful.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, they're, all the bigger ones are going after these large, 100-unit complexes or whatever with the big upside, where you as a local investor that really knows your area, knows the zoning, and is looking for deals like that. I mean, there's big time opportunity zones like that for you. Sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to be doing, we did that first one, and now we have another one upcoming, and then that 12 unit. So we're going to have done a total of 3 in a few years here. But yeah, it's really kind of all about how are we able to compete and do deals in a market that is really oversaturated, and everyone wants to buy these small properties. It's like, how can we find a way to make deals work that most people aren't even able to do and able to look at?
Yeah.
Very cool. So you focus mostly on value add deals. Could you tell us a little bit about what you look for when you're looking at a value add deal?
Yeah. So a part of it is what I was just described, where we look for properties that have kind of untapped potential. So whether we can build more on them, or we can add parking, we can add storage units, really anything that we can look at in a unique way to find more value. So that's one part of it. I would also say we kind of call it like the fringe areas, where we're looking where a lot of the investments are already happening, and like the areas are getting hot, and you see cap rates compressing and rents rising quickly. So we'll try to identify like kind of what's next, and we'll look for properties right there on the fringes. And hopefully, we've been fortunate to be in a pretty much an appreciating market for like 10 years. Hopefully the area catches up, and then we're positioned to where we were able to get a deal at a lower price for what people, now that the area is hot, like they're coming in and they're paying significantly more than what we had paid a few years before.
Yeah. And that's a huge value add just right there component, where you're looking, futuristically, and then when all these other outside investors or people at least who didn't recognize it come in, that's a big value add play.